conversation I had today about a gum sparked this video. We're gonna talk about it today. A colleague came to me and was just telling me about her experience that she's having, right? She is a colleague who always has gum, sugar-free gum, winter fresh, all of it. And she told me that she stopped buying the gums because one of her colleagues that I know is constantly nagging her about it. So I paused after listening carefully to her story and I said, why don't you just tell him no? She said, I'm gonna feel bad for lying. Because I know this colleague and I know he is a very selfish person who does not have a problem telling her no, even if he has abundance, who is just not willing to share anything, he's just all about himself. I was thinking, I don't get it. So I said, you're not lying if you tell him you don't want to share your things, knowing that he would not be concerned about how you feel when he isn't sharing with you. She said, so I said, okay, let me put it this way. Do you think he is going to feel bad about sharing his things with you, especially something that you don't want to share? Even, well, this is basically everything because he never shares. And she said, oh, when you put it that way, I guess I don't need to feel bad. And I'm like, I shake my head, but I get it. Sometimes we need clarity and we need a different perspective in order to see things for what they are. But it really begs the question, why do we feel guilty for saying no? Especially to people who would not lift a muscle or a finger for us. I'm not talking about those people who bend their backs. I'm not talking about the people who literally ensure that you're okay. I'm talking about the people who don't care. I don't know if this is a woman thing only, but and I honestly don't like to play the sexes because I just don't like to get into the conversation about the sexes. I never think it's productive and it's really blaming and not getting to resolutions. But I don't see a lot of men having this problem, to be honest. It's mostly a woman thing who just constantly feeling bad for saying no to people who don't feel bad for saying no to you. It's just a gum, but it's way deeper than that when you really check the levels, because it's about our energy. It's about our resources, or time, or money, or presence. It's not feeling like being generous means you don't have anything left for yourself. And this is coming from somebody who has given her last on many occasions, just to see those very same people who I gave my last to leave me flat on the floor. So I know this. When I am getting this newfound perspective, it's not that, oh, I was always like this. I had to learn that you cannot outgive a selfish person. You cannot put yourself on the back burner for people who won't show up for you. Like you're never going to ever win. You cannot try to be the nicest person in the room for somebody who wouldn't even care about you after they got what they wanted. And it's really a tough spot because you do feel bad, because we are programmed to feel bad. You're programmed to not say no. The moment you say no, you're not nice, you are mean, you are just the worst person to be around. And it bothers me. It really bothers me on a deep level. I don't know where this started, and I'm pretty sure this is a common thing in many spaces, but it's just that it's not okay. It's really not. There has to be a limit, and knowing that we all have limits should not be something that we try to avoid or try to run away from. It's more like being willing to have a conversation to share, okay, you know what, I can do this, I can't do this, but let it be clear. Sometimes people don't understand where you're coming from, and that's why they're not receptive. But you just have to know, not everybody you're going to explain yourself to, because not everybody's going to listen. Not everybody cares, not everybody wants to know, but the people who wants to know, it's a conversation, right? But I don't want this to be a thing that is never addressed. I don't want you to feel like you're entitled to say yes to things that you don't want to say yes to, even if you're being pressured. I had this conversation the other day too, where a colleague asked me to do something, and at the time, I wasn't able to do it. So I said, I'm not going to be able to do it right now, but I will do it. I didn't give a timeline because I because of the nature of the task, it was going to take a good amount of time. So I wanted to make sure that I could actually do it when I said I would. So I said, I'll get back to you on it and so forth. The day when I actually planned on doing it, you went above to, try to get somebody, my supervisor, to pressure me into doing it. And I didn't like that. So I called up my supervisor and I was explaining the situation to him. And I was like, no, I don't think this is the best approach. I mean, I think I should have some say into how and when I can be able to do something. So if I already told my colleague this, I don't expect this pressure to be coming from elsewhere, especially because that is a task that requires so much from me. And the conversation did not go too bad with my supervisor and so far because he understood my perspective. But it's just really to say that people will use so much different tactics just to get their way, and you have to know that your boundaries are for you. And at the end of the day, if you are trying so hard to get your way, that means I have to just try harder to keep my boundaries, because you are doing it for you and I'm doing it for me. And, it's not necessarily a malicious thing, but even good people with good intent, let me not say good people, even people with good intentions, because the good people term can get out of hand very quickly, but even with the best intentions, you can still come off malicious, because not everybody understands your stance, not everybody understands where you're coming from. And so at the end of the day, the boundaries are there to protect everybody involved, right? The sea and the land has a boundary. That's where it stops, so that the sea does not come over and the land does not go over. It's a boundary line. Every boundary creates a limit, and we all have limits as humans. So as you're going about your week, as you're about to prepare for your week coming up ahead, think about what is making you feel that extra level of guilt for saying no to something that you either physically cannot do or you just don't want to for whatever reason you have. And take a mental note of it. I'm not saying say no to everything, because if somebody really needs you to show up for them and it's something that you can do, then by all means go ahead. I'm talking about when it's something that you don't want to do and you're kind of being forced into it. And also, I want to be careful with that, because sometimes this is not permission for you to, sometimes we take things out of context, but this is not permission for you to forego your responsibilities because you don't want to do something. This is something that is just not your responsibility at all. It's out of your scope and you just don't want to participate, right? So if that is a scenario, that's what I'm referring to. What is making you hesitant? What is making you feel guilty about it? Note it and maybe have a conversation and be prepared for pushback, because at the end of the day, as I said, even good intentions can come off as malicious, but it's not always that way. And, we just want to approach the situation from a positive perspective. But, yeah, don't feel guilty for saying no to people who wouldn't think twice about saying no to you. That's my message today. All right. I pray that you have an amazing week and that you show up for you twice as hard as you show up for everybody else. Okay? Thank you so much for watching this video today. Subscribe if you have not yet subscribed, and share the video with anybody else. Comment below comment below what makes you hesitant or what makes you feel guilty about saying no. All right? And give the video a like so it can go to more people. Thank you so much for watching, and follow me on all social media platforms at Khrista-Lee Amore. That's TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And I will see you in my next video tomorrow. Let's go make some mistakes. Bye.